Hey guys, my name is Ismas and welcome to another Geometry Nodes giveaway. So this time I'm giving away my Geometry Nodes Railroad generator, and I'm also going to be showing you how to make one yourself for anyone who wants to get into Geometry Nodes. So let me show you how it works. I have a small video here just to show you how the different things you can set up. You can see how you can make that, and basically you have a few controls here. You have a way to adjust the path width. Make sure I'm selecting the right one. You can adjust the path with it, and all of these can be animated, as you can see in the animation that is playing here. You can add rock pebbles, grass, rails, and those wooden, I don't know how they are called, but yeah, you can get the project on Blender Everything, like all other setups that I have there. You can go to Blender Everything. Links are going to be in the description, and you can check out all the other things. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed, so that you get notified, and turn on notifications so that you can get notified on when I post new amazing stuff like this for free. So let's jump in and I show you how to make this. First, I think I should just first show you how you can do this in the ordinary way so that you can visualize how we're going to do it using Geometry Nodes. Before we jump into this, make sure to check out Simply Cloth, which is an amazing add-on for creating cloth garments for your characters or dressing up your characters. It also comes with its own library of clothes, so you don't have to create clothes from scratch, but if you want, it has that option as well. So I'm going to want to have a curve object. That is going to be the base of our setup, and we want to be able to just draw the nodes, the rail like this in the same fashion that I'm doing in this. So if I go to edit mode here, I have the ability to adjust this or even draw a completely new road from scratch by just doing that. So that's the setup we want to do, and I like this curve here it has made. Anyway, so that's basically what I want to show you. So, and I think if I show you the ordinary way of doing it and then do a breakdown in Geometry Nodes, it should make the visualization much easier. So we want to have a curve like that, and we want to set up a profile. Normally what you do with a profile, you usually have a circle like this, and I use it as the profile. If you go to geometry here and object, this is usually the profile, but instead of using a curve, we're going to use a plane, something like this, and you can see if we scale it, we get the profile, and then if we, in Geometry Nodes, we'll be converting this to a mesh so that we can select the outer edges like this, and those also convert them into a curve, and I use something like, I don't know, another curve as a profile for that curve, and that should give us the rail lines, and then we can instance the rocks and everything else onto those lines. So yeah, so let's go to Geometry Nodes, create a new Geometry Node setup, and again we need to start with a curve object like this. So then I need to setup, convert this to a mesh, to mesh, curve to mesh, like that, so that we can give it the profile, and the profile we want to give this is a curve line like this, and that the direction should be like that. So you can see what we have, but our curve is at the edge. We want it to be in the center. So what I'm going to do is just move these, what's the start point to a negative 0.5 and end point of 0.5 like that. That shows that that gives us the curve in the middle like that. So I can make easy adjustments like that. Very, very simple setup with just 3 or 2 nodes like that. So now we can go to the rail lines, which are supposed to be at the end here, at the end of the edge here. So to do that, we're going to we want to capture the vertices at the edge here. So what I'm going to do is just do a capture attributes, and if I look at this line, which is our profile, we can use endpoints because they get us the endpoints here and here. So I'm just going to do endpoint selection like this, and this should be a boolean. So use that. And then after we turn this into a mesh, we can easily select those edges by just using either separate or delete geometry. So I can, and what I want to delete is edges. So connect this, and the selection is going to come directly from these endpoints because it's being transferred throughout the edge. So I'm going to connect this like that. And so to make sure that it doesn't delete everything, you need to make sure that if we go to edit mode, if you subdivide the mesh, the curve first, so that you have some resolution in the mesh, in the curve. Otherwise it's going to delete all the points, but we just want to delete only the edges at the end here, the end points. And so let's add some subdivisions here. Otherwise, if you don't have any subdivision, it will just delete everything. So make sure you have some subdivisions. And then we want to invert this selection. So I'm just going to use a Boolean math here and change this to not, so that we are only selecting the edge points like that. And now that we have that, we can convert this back to a curve, because right now it's a mesh. So do mesh to curve and then back to curve. So to mesh to curve to mesh like this. And now we can use a profile. You can create the profile directly here. I'm just going to the rail profile. I'm just going to make something simple for demonstration purposes here. Just delete all the edges in the middle like that. So that's going to be our profile. I'm going to convert this to a curve so that I can use it here, and I'm just going to import that in and use that as our profile like that. I can scale it down, so I can use a transform and just scale it down, and we have our rail lines. We can also adjust the resolution of the curve, set spline resolution to make it more curvy like that. So we have our rails. Now what we need is the ground. We already have, this could be a good starting point. And what we can do is use a join geometry back here, and just join the two so that we have that. But now our rails are at the end of the ground. And another thing I could do is adjust the position of these so that they are above. So they're at the end, and we want them to, the ground to be a little bit, to be beyond the edge rails. So if we go to wireframe, you can see what we have here. So what we can do is scale these around. Let me first add a few more resolution in here. What I can do is scale this profile. So if I have a transform node here, transform node here, and scale this on the X, you can see I'm basically adjusting the width of the rail. So I want to be able to adjust the width of the ground separate from the rails. So we have that control as well. So what I'm going to do is just have this, and also try to separate these two, the rail and the ground. Basically to make sure that they're using two different things. So I'm just going to drag this up here. Make sure you're still using the profile, the original profile, and this could be the radius. So we now have a separate ground. So this is going to be our ground. So now we have that. I can get again. So this is going to control the overall width. And actually, let me separate this using a combine attribute. Set this to 1 and expose this as a parameter that I can adjust in the modifier as directly. So I can adjust the width here. But I want to have a secondary width for the ground. So I'm going to use another transform setup here. So here, that should allow me to adjust this separately. And I can also use another combine XY here so that I can adjust that separately. And basically what is going to be, I can just expose it as a separate value. You can name them as you want. So I can adjust this separately like that. And might need a little bit more resolution for this. Okay, we have the rod and the rail like that. Now we can add these logs or wooden, whatever they're called. For that, you can create one from scratch. And let's just make things simple. Just have something like this. Apply the rotation, apply the scale. and I'm just going to bring that in. I have this curve here, the original curve. Let me first hide this. I have the original curve. I want to instance this onto this, so I'm going to do I'm going to actually just bring this here, so that's in the middle. I can use instance on points here, and I use this object as our instance, and you can see that how we have that. So it's instancing, it is instancing on every curve point. So this point here and this point, that's why you see that we only have three of these blocks. And let me first scale these like that. So to make sure we have more, or have a way to control the number of points we need, I can easily just add a resample curve. That should give us a count option so that we can control the count. And maybe let me expose that as well. You can rename these as you want. So something like that. Turn on wireframe. Okay, so, but the rotation is off. So what I'm going to do, to get the rotation correct, I need to convert this to points, using the curve to points node. That should give us the option for the rotation. And actually, since I have a count on this, I don't even need to resample this, so I can just expose this directly, so that yeah, that gives us that. But now the rotation is still off, but we have these now options for the tangent, normal, and rotation. So I can use the tangent as the rotation, but I need to convert it or align Euler to vector, and the tangent is going to be our vector, and I can connect this to the rotation, and now we have the right rotation. If you want more control, you can make this wood object in geometry nodes and adjust it directly there, or you can just add a transform node so that you can scale different parts of this like this. Now, one issue you will notice is that when I adjust the width of the rails, they go over. Basically, they don't match these wooden poles. So to fix that, what we can do is find this scale. I think it's this here. That is scale. I should have renamed these, but I don't care, because if I adjust the x value of these logs also adjust. These logs also adjust. So I can use a combine xy here. Make sure that this is 1, and I can adjust this. Is it this? Yeah, so now if I change this, they all adjust. The rail adjusts as well. Okay, one issue you will notice is that when I move this around on the y-axis, you can see that when I move the control points on the y-axis, you see that they don't really rotate correctly in some areas. So what you can do is also connect the rotation to that, so that they adjust, but you need to do something like that. But I need to rotate these again. So since we already have a transform option here, I can come back here and just rotate this 90 degrees and maybe, yeah, 90 degrees as well here. So you can see now they follow this quite nicely. Now everything else still works as expected. Now, one other thing we could do is add this profile that you see in the original one. Yeah, this profile. So to do that, we can find our original profile. So this is our line. If we change the profile to something like a dome like this, then we'll get that. So let's do that. I'm going to come here, and if you're using Blender 3.4, you have the option to preview your geometries directly. So I can preview this attribute, I guess. I want to preview this here, preview this value. That's just giving us the selection of the rails. What I want to preview is actually I can capture I can capture the length of, or the factor of this line. So around here, I can use a capture attribute, or to make the things much easier to read, I can use a store named attribute, which is basically the same, but much more organizing. It makes it much more organized. So I'm going to call this factor, or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it factor. Now what I want to capture is the spline parameter. This gives us a factor here. So I've named it factor, and so I can access it anywhere in the geometry. So I can let me see this. Where is my curve? Yeah, where is my curve? Where is my mesh? Okay, this is the mesh I want to look at. So I can use the store, the named attribute, and remember we call this this still needs to be connected. So we named it factor. Now if I preview this, you can see it's just showing us the length of the original profile along the curve. So basically this factor, the length of the spline along the curve. And what we can do now is just preview this, is use a set position on this, and just use a combine XY. So this will adjust the position of the Z of the ground using this attribute here. That will give us an inclined. Let me just have this straight on the ground to demonstrate this better. So it will give us an incline like that, because that's how our values are. If I just look at this, basically black is 0 values and 1 is a value of 1. But we want more a shape like this. So what I'm going to do is just use a color ramp and convert color ramp here. Just adjust this like that, and use that as the Z value, and now you can see what we get is like that. So we have something like a roof, but this is too sharp. We want it to be a bit bent, a bit smooth. So what I'm going to do is just use another math node, a math node here, that basically smoothes out that sharp corner. So that is using the smooth minimum, and I can change the value here to adjust that. But it also makes the rail, puts the rail a bit below the ground. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that I add a set position for that. So let me see, this is our rail, these are our lines. I think we need a separate join geometry for these two, so that we have the rail and the line like that, and then just connect that to this. So now we can just add a set position that lets us adjust the position of, and you can expose this as a separate parameter, or you can create a relationship between this distance and this value and this value here. So we can do, and you see they actually look very close. So 0.23. So I guess if I expose one value, let me just drag this input here so that so if I this, I can adjust this, and if I use this as well here, I guess I should always have this above. Yeah. So whenever I change this, it raises the rail. Everything else is relatively simple. You can add instances, instance rocks, instance, or you can just go to the project file and explore how I did that in the original file. But yeah, basically that's how you do something like that. If you want to get the project file, again, I'm going to be adding it. It's already there on my Geometry Nodes page, or my Blender Everything page. Don't forget to subscribe, like. It helps out the channel quite a lot. And one more thing, be sure to check out Simply Cloth, which is an amazing add-on for creating cloth garments for your characters or dressing up your characters. It also comes with its own library of clothes, so you don't have to create clothes from scratch. But if you want, it has that option as well. It comes with a library, like I said, of clothes, and you can go to the page. You can see some of those clothes here. These are just some of that, and yeah, you